Welcome to My Life, My Business. Wish I was here. Our event that really, with our topics, focus on how to truly engage with the journey of life, whether it's in career or just personally or business for that matter. And, we've been oscillating between topics. Last week we spoke about just protecting your dream and also the different stages of when you follow that dream. But as usual, you can listen to the recording on the Clubhouse as a playback, or you can listen to the edited version on our YouTube channel, the Mufasa Coaching Practice. This afternoon, it's my pleasure to give a special welcome to my co-host Shanaz, who's going to be sharing with us. And as usual, I am very, very curious. Over to you, Shanaz.
Hi, I'm Shock. So, last week you spoke about you did Joseph, and you presented Joseph and his dream then as to talk about dreams and the various stages as you mentioned. And one of the things that I mentioned was that I really liked Joseph, and his story always inspires me, and particularly the way he thought about things. And so today I'm going to kind of follow up with one of my favorite authors' work, Dr. Caroline Leaf, and she has this idea that she says that we can do. I've mentioned it 2 weeks ago. You can do your own brain surgery, and so I'm going to kind of give us. She gives us some of the tools, and go through it very briefly today, really about how you can go ahead and do your own brain surgery. And I like to kind of think of it as so I've done this with our church, and some people got it and some people were a bit lost, and so I think I'm going to do it again and just kind of simplify it, and I maybe call it thinking about thinking. And what the real purpose then is this idea that when we that literally we can change our brains when we're thinking, and we want to activate the neuroplasticity of our brain which God created us. And she actually bases this work of hers on 2 Corinthians 10, that talks about taking every thought captive, and also on Romans, that being transformed by the renewal of your mind. And the amazing thing is that she talks about how God created us to be able to choose our thinking and our thoughts, and how in that same way we can um, literally change our brain. And she calls it doing brain surgery. So there is a 5-step process to this that I'm going to share with you, and what the reviewers about the process say. So the 5-step process that she talks about, I'm going to go through it with you, and it's really fairly simple. So what she talks about is, while it's a simple process, it's just amazing because it activates different parts of your brain. So, step one, she calls gather. I'm going to go through it individually. Step two, she calls focused reflection. Step three is writing. Step four is revisit. And step five is active reach. So, what are we doing? So, this can take between 7 to 10 minutes, but a lot of people, as they become used to it and as they start to enjoy it, they take longer. But if you are like in a rush, if you do this for 7 to 10 minutes every day, literally you are going to change the way you think about your situation. You're going to change any toxic thoughts that you have about a situation or yourself. You will change it. And so she actually calls it the 21-day detox. So, what the idea is, if you follow these 5 steps for 21 days, you are going to overhaul your brain, and you are going to find that you are wanting to replace it with a new kind of more healthier thought. So, the idea is that when we are trying to change our thinking, we first need to get rid of the old thinking. So that's the detoxing part. So what happens when we gather, right? So step one is called gather. Gathering is when you are quiet for, it takes 1 to 2 minutes. You need to be quiet, and what you want to focus on, so you're going to sit quietly. What you're going to focus on is thinking about what you are experiencing through your five senses. So that would mean, what am I feeling right now? What am I smelling right now? If I'm touching something, what am I touching? So you are gathering. It's called, the step is called gathering. So in other words, you're gathering information of your current thoughts in step one, and that's why it's called gather. So what we are doing then, it's an exercise just to help you become aware of where your thoughts are and what you're currently thinking. The idea of step one is also to kind of make you aware of thoughts, many thoughts that may go through your mind on a daily basis, every minute, unchecked, right? Many of us don't realize we have lots of thoughts that go unchecked, and this is a great way to start becoming aware of those thoughts that go through your mind that you're not even aware of, right? So then what you're going to be thinking of is like, think of any thoughts that are immediately coming to mind, right? So it could be around, what you're worried about that day. It could also, what you also find is, you also will realize that when you start to think, you also feel, which is really interesting. So she says that once you start to think about, once you start to think, there are also feelings associated with those thoughts. So what are the feelings or the emotions that bubble up with those thoughts that you are kind of having? And again, that's like becoming aware that sometimes we're not even aware that as we are having thoughts go through our head, we are also associating it with emotions. The next step then, so all we're doing in step one, which is gather, we are just gathering information. You're not doing any major thing. You're just kind of noting your thoughts. You are noting your feelings. You're noting, it could even be something that you've smelled. Maybe it's a pleasant smell. Maybe it's, breakfast, depending on when you do it. Feelings associated with that. If you pick up an attitude, you can also think about, and what is your attitude this morning? Or when you're thinking about it, I tend to do it in the morning, so that's why I'm connecting with the morning. So you're making yourself consciously aware of your thoughts. Sometimes for me, it's like, I'm worried about what I need to do for the day, or a particular thing. So then you also want to become aware of your body physically, right? I can sometimes feel that I'm quite tense, or I've got a bit of lower back pain, or maybe some muscles, etc. Probably has to do with the age as well. But yes, so you noticing. The other thing is, while you're noticing this, you actually can be aware that you can actually control your thoughts. And by that is like, do you actually want to have these thoughts? Are these pleasant thoughts or unpleasant thoughts? you know and this idea, we want you, in step one, we she wants you to become aware that you can accept or reject thoughts. Because as I'm thinking, like, automatically we sometimes accept it or reject it. Like, okay, I'm quite stressed out now, and then for some of us, like, no, I don't want to be stressed. So it's about, again, awareness that I can accept or reject my thoughts. This is really key, because sometimes we are not aware that we are accepting thoughts, and we're not aware that we are rejecting thoughts. And think of an easy thing like, accepting a thought. Some people unconsciously say to themselves, I'm being stupid today. or they don't even, when someone pays them a compliment, they will automatically reject it. And maybe where does that come from? That comes from unconscious thoughts that we are having, that we are rejecting, that we are good enough, perhaps. So that all goes on in gather, right? Step two, then we can go. So you want to do this for 1 or 2 minutes. For some of us, as you start, you may take longer, but 1 or 2 minutes should be fine. The next step two is called focused reflection, right? And I love what she says that the world is kind of catching up with the Bible. Focused reflection is basically being like how we should actually be meditating on God's word. It's like a bit of concentrated effort. And it's amazing how everyone is coming up with mindfulness, etc. Yet in the Bible, this has been part of scripture and how we serve God for like centuries. So what do you actually want to do with focused reflection? Focused reflection, right, is really about becoming aware of what you are thinking of, right? How are your thoughts? So thinking about thinking, noticing the different thoughts again, but now you're focusing on, maybe you want to focus on one particular thought, right? So in the previous step, we were noticing several things going through our minds, several kind of points of information. In step two, we want to think about the one thought, maybe identify one thought that is going through your mind. The next thing that you then want to do is, with that thought, you want to ask yourself, do I want to build memories out of this new information? Or do I need to reject this information? Right? And so the idea then is, if this is something that is important to us, it's definitely something that we want to focus on. Or it could be something that is something that we want to change, right? So this thought that you've identified, is this something that is going to bring you good health and well-being? Or is this what we would identify as a toxic thought, not bringing you, it's not going to do anything positive? So one of my toxic thoughts, I think, that I used to have was that I struggle to lose weight, right? And it's something that I wanted to get rid of, right? A toxic thought could be, that you, like I said, you're not good enough, you are a failure. It can be those thoughts that bring that it don't actually add value to you. And there's also a part in the Bible that talks about when things become a stronghold. What is, if we are Christian and we think of something that has become so fixed in our brain that we have internalized it, that we aren't able to change, that is actually a stronghold. So what she says is, we can, when we think deeply and we understand this, that this is something that has become fixed in our mind, we can actually change it. And so what she wants us to do is understand that this toxic thought has been built up in our brain over many months or even years. And so we are going to have to try and get rid of it. If we want to break down or tear down the toxic stronghold, then this is the kind of process that we are needing to undergo. So, how do we then go? And it's also about being aware that how we can store up these thoughts, these negative thoughts over many years, that it can become so internalized that we cannot change or shift from it. Despite, and I think 2 weeks ago, I gave that example of the tree. So there are many branches to this thought, right? And so we want to actually break it down, because I don't want to think that I can't become fit and healthy. I want to know that I'm fit and healthy. So the next step, then, now we've become aware that this is a thing we want to change, or this is a thing that has become, that's not healthy in our life. The next step is step three, which is writing. And she says it's really important. She says that writing down your thoughts is important in switching on our brain, actually, to kind of start to address and break down this memory or this toxic thought. And what she says is, think that when the writing technique consolidates memory and it gives us clarity on what we've been thinking about all the time. And I mean, many of us know how writing helps, how journaling helps. It's about literally, and what I like is that they say, think of it as it's a conscious and non-conscious way of making your thoughts visible, right? So when we're writing it down, you actually, and she says, it's like putting your brain on paper. And I love that because now you can actually see what you are thinking about. And remember, I said what we are doing is thinking about thinking. So the writing part is that step three. And basically, we're going to write down those thoughts. Sometimes you can write one thing, you can write more if you wanted to. The next step is then step four, which is called revisit. This is an important step. This step, what she wants us to do is, or what we do in this step, is we revisit what we've been writing. What does it reveal to you? And that is this kind of focused reflection. What is the writing? When you look at what's going on in your brain, what is it? What are you thinking about? How do you reflect? Are you, what does it make you feel? So revisiting then is all about trying to think, is this what I want in my life? Is this how I want to be thinking? Are these the thoughts that is going to help me? So revisiting is really just about looking at what you've written down about your thoughts, or it's revisiting the thoughts that are actually going through your mind on a regular basis, right? So that's step four. Then step five is the final kind of step, right? And step five is called active reach. So, what they say is that this is the action part, and she bases this on the idea or the scripture that faith without works is dead. So, what's actually happened is this idea is where you put your plan into action, right? What it means is that you are going to, once you've reflected on what your thoughts are, how are you going to change it, or what are you going to do to actually do the change? So it could be that um you've decided that you need to let go of something, or you need to forgive someone. And she says step five is the actual forgiving part. So it's action. You've got to put the action in place. And so for me, one of the things is around. So she says if your decision is to lose weight, then it's the actual lifestyle change, then to lose the weight. If it's to change your jobs, then it's to actually start looking at changing your job. If it's to change a way that you think about yourself, is to stop actually talking negatively about yourself. And it's about writing this down also. So for me, it's been about actually making the lifestyle changes. It's actually kind of taking the steps like buying me some gym equipment. It's also about using some apps that I like, engaging with someone who is a running coach. It's the actual work that you are doing. And one of the things that she says, it is that the active reaching step helps you feel your truth. So if you are unable to do the action part, then you know that you need to still work on it some more. You also become aware that there are thoughts and there could be other toxic thoughts that need some work on, and you just have to continue the process. And what I really like is, she says, think of it is if we are another part of feeling your truth, or the active reaching part, is that if you are like constantly seeing this negative situation in your mind, like if I use oh, this is so hard, I'm never going to finish that 5 kilometers or that 10 kilometer that I'm going to run, is to what she calls change the video in your head. So visualize myself, running the 10K, visualize myself getting the medal at the end. So she talks about switch the video that you're showing yourself in, or the movie that is playing yourself in the brain. And what she says is that actually then starts to kind of work the process, and actually activates important part of our brain, the neuroplasticity, is when we actually start to think differently. What she then talks about is that we want to do this. The active reach part can also be 1 or 2 minutes, and in the same way that we have now taken, say, a thought that, I struggle to lose weight, I can't get fit, the same 21 days, right? So it takes you, if you do this for 21 days, um, you would have broken down the toxic thought, and then you can take, for some it may take longer, but then you can do another 21 days and actually learn to build up healthy thoughts. So in the same way, is that when you will gather, and then you will, as soon as you become aware of the toxic thought, you will change then to the healthy thought. I can run a 10 kilometer, and I will go and focus again on developing, focused reflection on, how that makes me feel. I'll go through the process again, of writing, which is step 3, and I'll go through the process again of revisiting my writing, which is step 4, and my active reach part. So maybe my active reach part for my healthy thought in and thinking of my healthy 21 days is actually signing up for a 10 kilometer. That is the action that I would put. So just to summarize the 5 steps very quickly, is the first step is to gather. So you want to get out, as think, sit quietly for 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes, and think, what information are you gathering through your 5 different senses. The next step could be, is step 2, which is focused reflection. What Find a thought that you want to focus on, or that you want to change, or that you is concerning to you, and you want to just kind of focus and think about that a bit. Is it something that you want in your life? Is it not something that you want in your life? Is it something that you want to change? Once you've identified that thought, the next step is step 3, where you want to write it down. And what she says, you can add, as you write, you can add more information. And she talks about, as we adding more information, we also adding more branches, we adding more neuroplasticity. This is particularly with a healthy thought. Or we want to, if we want to break down the toxic thought, we may want to replace it with newer thoughts, and we may want to think about, why am I feeling this way, and writing about that. The fourth step, as I said, is revisit. The revisit is look at, what thoughts are going through your head. And then what you want to do is, you want to then, as you are revisiting what you are thinking, the active reach is step 5 again, which is again, so what do I now need to do, is the active part. And sometimes, as I said, it can take longer, and literally it's those 5 steps. And I can tell you that it's really helped me, and it's really helped a lot of people. And so I just want to encourage you that we can absolutely change the way we think about our lives. And it's not about burying our head in the sand and just thinking happy thoughts. There's an actual process that involves thinking about thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanaz. I got one question. When I listen to these 5 steps, right? Does it take a level of self mastery to be able to work and do this by yourself? Because I'm just imagining if somebody finds themselves in that space where they sit in a complete sort of victim mode, that meaning that events or their lives are at the effect of events, and feeling helpless and hopeless. um, is there an interim step to get to the point where you are able to sit and really sift through what you're thinking and then move ahead? Do you require a spark, or can this just happen from a place where wherever you find yourself, you can do this?
You need to understand the steps. I've basically given a summary. I'm not going to be able to put, but there is a question about, she has several questions, and you're supposed to kind of do this with the PDF. She provides the PDF free online, and there's several things that you need to go through. I didn't kind of have time to go through that, but she definitely addresses that. About how are you thinking about yourself? What are the negative thoughts about yourself? And then, is this what you want to feel like? Do you? And she actually mentions victim. Do you want to feel like a victim? So those are the thoughts. But it does take that you do need to read it and you need to practice it in order to kind of benefit from it. But it's something you can do on your own. You don't need another person to do it. I think if you've got the tools and you've got the PDF and you've got the book, then it's possible to do it.
Okay, sure. I don't want to start another long debate, but so interesting, and and it so aligns with, and you've heard me refer to this particular tool that I use in as sort of a guide, as in my coaching, is we call it the Energy Leadership Index. That's got 7 levels of engagement, and I've shared it in many different ways. But when I listen to this, I can see how this aligns with it. In any case, so okay, so thank you very much, and I want to encourage everybody who's listened to your talk is at least get to step number 1, where that sort of growing awareness of what you are thinking, and that capturing your brain by writing it down. Write down those things and say, okay, how does this serve me? How does this serve me? I've got a picture. Do I want to stay this way? No, I want to change. I want to be this other thing. And you were talking about visualizing that. So how does this support where I want to be? As sort of a spark to really complete this process, and then to take that necessary action, to make the change that you so desire. So thank you, Shanaz. This is awesome.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right. Okay, everybody. Until next week, and just to remind everybody, as we've been doing for the last while since we've been broadcasting, is next week is our final event for the year, and we will start up again in January. So see you next week on the 25th, Monday, same time. Looking forward to seeing you again. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.